Oh, nice. Look
I
at
mean,
that.
cheese
Is
and
that
bread.
brie?
Yeah, actually,
The happiest of hours,
ah, shit.
5:14 p.m. on a Friday.
It is Friday. Thank God.
Yeah, it was funny. That was one of my first questions. Do you know
Cheers.
what day it is?
Mm, I have not felt like I've known all the days consecutively. I kind of could like pick a day of the week. I think it was, but did I
Uh-huh.
really know? No.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's funny because when you pick up your bread, it gets lost in the snow in the background. What what do you got there? Is that brie and a baguette?
So we have a great bakery downtown, and the cheese selection is still killer.
Uh-huh.
They've totally transitioned to delivery, so we
Uh-huh.
get to make the selections we want and get the stuff delivered. And it's killer. So yeah,
Nice.
really good. My favorite part will be the end of the bread
Uh-huh.
with a little bit of brie stuck on there, and then butter on this side.
Oh,
As you can
wow.
tell, I'm in a quarantine diet
Yeah.
where
Well,
I'm
we can
eating
jump into
everything.
that question because that was going to be one of my questions. How has your diet gone over the quarantine? Are you taking better care of yourself or are you taking less good care of yourself?
There was a stat on the bottom of the TV yesterday. So
Mhm.
up here we watch CBC, Canadian Broadcast Channel,
Yeah.
and on the bottom running across it said alcohol consumption up 40% across Canada.
Whoa.
And so I mean I think that's a crucial part of the diet
Uh-huh.
is to make sure that you have the right kind of alcohol
Uh-huh.
and the right amount. And I think the
Yeah.
right amount is totally dependent on mood and
The strength of one's
situation.
liver. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, I think that
40%. That's pretty great stat. It reminds me that I'd seen I think TSA keeps stats. They keep their stats, and on a typical whatever the date was, not too long ago, they said I think they get 2 million travelers that day, and then fast forward to now, and less than a tenth. It was about 100,000.
saw that,
Ah,
man.
that's punishing.
I mean, we spent a lot of time on a plane. And
Yeah,
so I'm very jealous of those who are flying right now, but it's like the last place I want to be.
yeah. Empty flights, get the whole row to yourself. You get the upgrade.
The whole plane.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Literally, when they're like, I wonder if we should even fly this plane today.
My last flight was Friday the 13th
What month was
and
that? February?
March. No, that was like 2.5 weeks ago.
Oh gosh, man, what are you doing, you bandit?
Yeah, that was a mistake. It was
Where were
like
you
trying.
flying?
I was flying from Bentonville back home.
Huh.
So I flew on a plane with like 15 people to
Hmm.
Chicago, and then I
Hmm.
had like 7 people to Burlington.
What brought you there? What were you doing in Bentonville?
We were talking about the amazing stuff going on in Bentonville. We were trying to figure out what the master plan is looking down the road and what kind of cool things are coming our way. I mean, if there's one place in the world where bikes are top of mind and
Hmm.
getting taken care of in a way that's like no other, it's Bentonville.
Yeah.
Like if you were going to be a road rider in the 80s, you went to Italy because that was like the coolest place in the world. And if you were a mountain biker in the 90s, you went to Durango or somewhere in Colorado.
Yeah.
Um, if you were a cross rider in the 2000s, you were either in Seattle or New England. And
Mhm.
now it's like the new wave is Bentonville. It's a great place to be on a bike no matter what kind.
Yeah. That's wild. Was it? I mean, you and I. Shoot, maybe one of the last times we got to hang out was January in Bentonville. Was
Exactly.
it a brain trust of people? What was these particular meetings?
Uh, some of it was definitely brain trust like, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Um, where you can kind of dream and you just know that like when you start throwing dreams up on a whiteboard, the
Yeah.
likelihood of some of those dreams taking place is really high.
Yeah.
And it's like I don't know, like we have so much creativity in our sport and there's so much happening and it's like when you're aware of it, it just empowers you to do even more.
Uh-huh.
we're lucky to have a lot of people who are working hard for us, you know, like
Yeah.
at whatever level. But in one of those cases, it's like it's kind of a dream level, you know, the world
Sure.
exists in a different plane, and
Yeah.
if we get to go and be a part of it, then it's awesome.
Hot damn.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I'm going to switch up my background if you don't mind. So go ahead,
yeah, please do.
continue.
Make a transition. Where are you going right now?
Because
Wait for it.
my head is dropping in and out here. Do you know where that is? Do you know where is it preferences? Yeah, there it is.
Oh,
Virtual background. Yeah.
Oh, I got you. I don't know where that is now. I think meant like, where is your background?
One of my favorite places.
Oh, look at us. We're on Hawk Hill.
Isn't that crazy?
Man, that's very sweet. We had a friend take literally that exact same picture this morning. Shout out to Jeff.
No way.
Dawn Patrol going on right there at Hawk Hill. That is outstanding. That is beautiful.
You know, you can have that too, Ted.
Oh my God, your head is an island. I freaking love it.
Oh God,
Sometimes your shoulders fall apart. And now we're on the moon.
And we're
change
back.
things up.
Yeah.
We got maple syrup over one shoulder, and we got Vermont and New Hampshire over the other. See, there you are right now. I can point to where you are. See, there's Tim.
Yeah.
Hey, buddy.
Actually, yeah. Look at that.
Yep.
Wow.
So
I'm in your room at all times.
After this very long-winded intro, not even the intro, that was the preface. Like, we are obviously in some crazy times amid a global pandemic. And with so much strife, so much confusion going on in the world, because literally every conversation, every tweet, every piece of social media, every news story has coronavirus top of mind. I want to, of course, start by breaking the ice with the obvious. We're going to talk coronavirus. Now, there exists 20 questions, like the game of 20 questions. We're going to play 19 questions, COVID-19 questions.
Perfect. Yeah.
So I got 19 questions. I don't know how many we're going to get to here, but we're going to start with some COVID, and then we're going to definitely go off topic. I don't want to talk about COVID, but let's start with the easy and obvious.
Yeah.
What is the greatest number of days that you've not left your house?
Wow. My yard or my house? What's the difference?
We'll go. It's a twofer. It's a 2 for 1. House and then property.
Okay. I have not left my house. Well, I mean, we have 2 dogs, so I've left my house every single day.
Very good.
To leave the yard and go somewhere else, pretty small. The beginning of it, I was shopping for my wife's parents and her brother. They were both out of the country. They were quarantining once they returned. So I was the guy at the grocery store with a cart filled with stuff. But I wasn't trying to hoard it. I was buying it for other people because they couldn't go themselves. So I left every day for a couple days and a couple times each day. But since then, man, I've we've transitioned to delivery, a lot of stuff, and I haven't left the yard in a while, actually. The only other time I left actually was to go pick up coffee and beer. So
necessities.
I mean, I would have been fine explaining that to a cop if I was pulled over.
Yeah. Yeah.
Completely. Which is happening up here, actually.
Like officer, CDC, 40% increase in alcohol consumption. That's it.
Exactly. I was keeping it local. I was going Quebec. Although this is my 6th to last can of Sip of Sunshine.
So, not written down one of my questions. What is the most number of days that you've gone without consuming alcohol? I've gone 2 days dry. This is the 3rd day, and I thought it was fitting to go, drink a nice Vermont IPA for my homies up in Canada.
You went 2 in a row. Good for you.
I went 2 in a row. Thank you. Well, and then I almost went with the first one I pulled out was Green Empire Brewing. Great stuff out of, I think, Essex. I nearly pulled out this new Lawson's Triple, which is a 10%er in a 12-ounce can, but I decided not to. So, yeah, here's to our homies.
Well, we're all disappointed. I was thinking that much like gravel and cyclocross, there's the assumption that you drink. There's the assumption that you, finish the day, have a beer, have some kind of alcohol. It leaves a lot of people out. It leaves the people who drink wine out generally, unless it's like a progressive race organizer or ride organizer that knows that there are people who don't want just a hazy IPA, which I totally get. It's fine.
Yeah, yeah. Dude, there's even people who drink lagers. It's weird.
But there are also people who don't drink at all.
Correct.
And imagine if this fucking pandemic took place in January, dry-uary, like not happening.
No.
That'd be the
would
worst.
end a lot of dry-uaries.
Yeah.
Accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Or coffee. Oh man, brutal. Okay, jump into actual question number 2.
Yeah, go for it.
Are you currently wearing pants?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very good.
Did I just put them on?
Yeah.
Yes.
Special for this video at the risk of possibly standing up. You're looking good. You're looking like the Tim Johnson we know and love. What was the last day you took a shower?
Oh, I just took one, but it's when did I wash my hair last? I was kind of, I don't know. I thought we'd go for something a little quarantine fro. I feel like that's happening. I
like that.
I have a new neighbor up here who you mentioned, who I hadn't met yet. Ryan Atkins and his wife Lindsay are 2 Spartan race machines. Who I didn't know who you were talking about when you said, "Hey, the guy that I did the ride in Northern Canada with last year just moved to your town, Ryan Atkins." And I was like, "Don't know him." Turns out that he lives like as the crow flies, maybe 2K away. He lives in a great spot up on a hill. They've got like chickens and a co-op area. They're tapping trees and boiling tap. He's got a gigantic dog who we've actually already met on the trails around here without knowing who they are.
Sunto. Sunto, the giant. What do you, Akita? Yeah, that thing is a
Alaskan Malamute.
There you go. Crazy animal.
Huge. But it's like, I don't know. So I'm working out in the yard and I don't have a great back, and I'm also kind of lazy, and I'm looking around and I've got all of these trees that I've cut down over the last couple of years that I need moved. So I take a photo and I'm like, "Hey, Ryan, your whole job is to pick shit up and put it down.
Yeah.
I'm like, when can you come over here and help me with these trees?"
That's outstanding.
That's the next project we're working on. It's a, quarantine activity, workout for him. Maybe he'll like ride and deliver some food to some elderly people in town and then come over and pick up a bunch of tree trunks and then drop them somewhere else. And I don't need to use a 4-wheeler, I got him.
Brilliant. And that's his jam. Like when we did the James Bay descent, his idea is to like train and do life adventures all the same instead of like arbitrarily picking up a tire and flipping it over. So you give him a task of like moving all of the lumber out of your yard, he's going to freaking love it.
Well, if I could turn the trees into lumber, even better. But at this point, all I want is like, I want to move just big hunking tree trunks. I want to roll them places. I want to put them, I want to take them from here and put them over there. Like, Ryan, I need your help. Be a good neighbor, please.
I like it. Okay. What is the most overused term amid the coronavirus pandemic? And I can give you some options.
Okay.
Shelter in place, self-quarantine, Donald Trump, quarantini, hunker down, and Anthony Fauci.
There's not enough quarantinis.
No.
There's not enough Dr. Fauci. There's way too much Trump. The multiples. There's not enough shelter in place.
No.
There's a lot of self-isolate, which I think that the definition is kind of hazy. Twitter's probably a word that I hear a lot, maybe too much. But at the same time, it's a great place to learn good information. Two people to follow, Sarah Kensador and A.T. Rupar, A-T-R-U-P-A-R. Two great accounts that I've followed for a couple of years, and God damn, they're hard to read.
They're preaching some truth.
Yeah.
Fascinating, huh?
But yeah, it's being on this side of the border.
Which let's set the precedent. We've talked about where you are, but for those who don't know, you're in Canada right now.
Sorry, I'm right over.
You're right.
Hold on.
Well, now I just lost the.
Yeah.
There you are. Hi, Tim.
I'm right over there.
This is New Hampshire. the twinning state over here.
It looks a lot like Mississippi right now.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly. Welcome to
those
Mississippi,
two
home of
states.
sorghum gum syrup, and what else do we
Oregon.
got? No, we got Vermont, we got New Hampshire, and there's Tim in his great white abyss, which is Canada.
Oh, yeah,
Okay,
huge. Hmm.
Tim's in Canada. What all is going on up there? How's Trudeau doing?
Uh, well, without being too biased, he's doing a pretty good job.
Mm-hmm.
First step, acknowledgement, got it. Second step, informing what is known, done.
Mm-hmm.
Helping people to not be panicked, also done. Keeping liquor stores open as an essential place, done.
Requisite.
But he's on TV every day and talking about what they're doing. So a little bit of compare and contrast. Bijou Thomas, good friend of ours. Bijou is restaurateur, small business owner. And I talked to him today and he's like, man, I've been trying to apply for the small business, CARES Act stuff. And they keep changing how to do it, when to do it, what the information is. He's literally like, if I can get on the website, it's really hard to do. He's trying to get help. Up here, when they announced the support that they were going to do, it was $2,000 a month for 4 months to anyone who lost their job. And it was easy. It's like, you're still employed, you don't have a job, but you get this money. In the US, you get $1,200 for each American. But then you have to jump through all the hoops to get it, get that 1,200, whatever. They're doing a really good job of it. It's this mix between, the crazy, like clear sense of belonging or citizenship in Germany, where they deposit $5,000 in your account as a freelance graphic designer or journalist who's out of a job, without you even having to apply, because they already know who you are, where you live, what you do, all your income, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So that's pretty interesting to hear. But I think the most important thing has been this idea that if you're sick, if you feel ill, you go and get tested and you don't even think about it because you don't have to pay for it. You don't think about whether or not I'm going to go get tested and get dinged for the cost of it, following up insurance, getting 400 letters in the mail, months down the road, charging you for something you didn't know about. Mm-hmm. And then if you are in fact, sick, you will get a test and they'll tell you like, yeah, you've got it or you don't have it. It's like what's going on in the States is brutal because it's just leaving so many people in the dark. And I think that's the difference between here and there. Same outcomes generally. People are still getting sick. People are still, potentially dying. But no one feels like they don't know what's coming. It's like there's no sense of fear in it. It's like an understanding of, oh shit, how do I help? How do I do my part? But I think we're going to be okay as long as we bunker down and do it.
Yeah. Well, shoot. Yeah, I remember you talking about how Canada is doing a bring back system where if you are a Canadian national and you're overseas, Canada is, shoot, that's probably why the 100,000 people who are flying are the few people who are being brought back into the country.
Yeah, repatriating people. Yeah.
Oh, that's wild.
So they said, hey, any Canadians abroad, please come home now. That was like March 15th.
They put out the beacon, a giant maple leaf into the sky. And all Canadians saying, I must come home.
And you're like, wait, is it maple syrup falling from the sky? Yeah. Like, what is going on here? I don't get it. Are we using the same, symbols here? Yeah, but they're doing a good job. They're bringing people home, and I get a front row seat.
Yeah, you do. Well, so that's a two-for question because we're talking family now. Your wife is a Canadian politician, and then the question that I was about to ask is, your mother is in the States. Is that correct?
Yep.
She's in Massachusetts. You'd asked me how my mom's doing. Like, we got moms of a roughly similar age. Not too long ago, you said, how's your mom doing? And I, it was basically that point. Is that how you're getting your news from the States, is like checking with mom? And
no, actually, the good and the worst part is that we get Boston TV channels here on satellite. So I can just watch, Boston news and then, the national news on ABC, NBC, CBS, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so my front row seat is pretty front row. Like, Lynn, a former cyclist from Quebec, she ran for and won a seat in Canadian Parliament last fall.
Mhm.
And, contrary to what the idea of a political, position is, that it's easy squeezy, gravy train all the way, as far as you can push it, it's not that at all, especially in this kind of situation. She's been working her ass off, but it has been really interesting to see the contrast every single day up close, because it's easier for me to understand. Like, you remember when people were like crashing the website on Canadian immigration after the election in 2016, and it was mostly people who were just curious, like, oh shit, the person I voted for didn't win, I got to go to Canada. Well, now, like, being in this position and seeing how things are really turning out, it's like, man, there is such a difference in the way things are being addressed, and whether or not you feel like you're a part of something that's going to work out all right. I don't know. So my mom is down in Mass. She's doing well. She's got her friends that she socially distances with each day, and they walk through the woods and hang out and look at birds, and she's staying healthy and trying not to get infected, because she is in that really vulnerable population that that's like 20% chance. If you are one of those people, you are likely to be hospitalized, and then if you are hospitalized, then there's a whole another decision that comes down the line.
Accurate. Well, that was very
uplifting,
but it was also, I mean, that was good, like educational, top down. Like, here's a good follow up to that. Do you know what COVID-19 stands for?
I do.
Do you agree with me that a lot of people probably don't know what COVID-19
Yes.
And it was, I mean, like, I'm not trying to plead smart. I listened to the right podcast the other day that told me what it was.
Yeah.
COVID-19.
So,
what do you got?
Podcasts, like Joe Rogan had on an epidemiologist on like March 9th or something, like March 8th. So early-ish, in this whole thing. And he talked a lot about what the structure of this really is. And he did it in a way that, it's like Howard Stern is an incredible person to talk to people that aren't typically spoken to by, mainstream media, whatever it is. He's got his people and they love him and they'll listen to what he says. And he's able to educate them on different topics that they may not be able to get. Joe Rogan is doing the same thing. He's killing it with the number of people that are listening to his stuff and understanding it in a more educated way. He's a great interviewer because he just lets things unfold and will ask a question to like keep it going. So he had this guy on there, and I listened to it, among other things. But it's like, it's funny. It really depends on where people get their information from. So if it's coronavirus ID, 2019 versus coronavirus 2002, which is, the original SARS, like, I didn't know that at the start of this whole thing, but I'm definitely not afraid of learning something new. I think that's kind of what, we're lucky. We've been global participants, because of our sport. We've been able to travel places and meet different people and understand that it's not just the same thing that happens outside your doors. It happens outside everyone else's around the world. Everyone's so different.
Do you ever watch Vice News? Do you remember Vice channel?
Yeah.
Dude, like everything you just said about Howard Stern and Joe Rogan and the modern media, it's like, where do you get your news? And certainly you could be on any political partisan side. And then there's something like Vice, which is, they're just showing you like what's the crazy stuff that's happening in the real world that you're never going to see on any network. Mike Creed introduced me to Vice, and it was just, oh God, this is like the black hole of the internet.
Yeah, they'll show people getting killed in the streets who are like trying to protest something, and you're like, wait a second, I didn't realize, I didn't know
see
why
that on
they
NBC
were
Nightly
protesting.
News.
Yeah, I just saw that they were. I never understood why.
Crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think that the benefit of the ability to have an internet, the ability to have information coming at you all the time, is great and massively arming to people if you choose to like break out a little bit, if you choose to look at other things. I can look at other sites that I don't often look at, and I'm like, wow, that's what they're saying. Holy crap. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Like, no wonder why that other person that I met the other day thought that way. Like, gosh,
Yeah.
come on, people.
Well, and man, it is such a, I don't want to go too far down this political avenue.
We have some more brie here.
There is definitely a nature versus nurture aspect to where one is going to get their news. And I feel like that's more of a, well, I mean, it probably goes both ways. It is nature versus nurture. I feel like it is more of a nurture. It's like, what are you brought up in? What is your political leaning? What is your openness? What is your world travelness? Like, what are you going to adopt? We're going to leave it right there. But then it's a great segue that I did have as the next question. What is the best pandemic distraction that you have going on right now? The answer can't be Zwift.
No, God, no.
I mean, like a particular book.
Although it has its value for sure. Like
100%.
No question. I am a fan. I do it. I like it. I will look for it to save me at certain times.
Yes. Hats off to Zwift. Hats off to Eric Min for starting this thing. I sat down with Eric Min and Dave Zabriskie in about 2000. Eric Min founded Zwift. I think the year was 2010, 11, 12, something like that. No, it's later than that. 12 or 13. And he's like, I'm going to put together this thing that is a video game cycling nebulous concept. And I think both Dave and I shrugged off the idea very quickly, but then over the course of the next 20 minutes, when he's describing the video game culture that exists online, I was like, all right, yeah, I get it. And then you talk about the people who can only ride a bike at 5:30 to 6:30 a.m. before they go to their corporate job. Okay, I get it. Never would I have guessed that it would take it off to the extent it has, especially not during a global pandemic. However, independent of all that, so not Zwift, what is a particular book or a brain-melting Instagram or great website? Like, what is something that has been your best pandemic distraction?
Okay, a surprise place for me is Apple News. I pay the $10 a month. I get access to the Journal, Washington Post, any number of magazines, New Yorker, New York, Vanity Fair, GQ, I think is in there. Like, whatever you want to pick is in there.
Okay.
I look at that a lot.
Yeah.
And I look at that because there's a lot of long reads in there. There's a lot of stuff. Hi, Laura.
Do you want to have a cameo?
Yeah. I mean.
Yeah. Laura and Hazel, welcome to the show.
The two. I mean, this is my first time really being near Hazel. Oh.
She's on a sleep strike.
Yeah, she was. Laura's psyched. I looked over at Laura and she was like,
I'm giving.
Please.
Yeah.
Hazel, you want to use your words?
They're hard to get at. My zebras speak for me.
She speaks 3 languages.
Oh.
Hi, Hazel. Hazel, you're on the internet.
That was my grandmother's name, as I mentioned when she was born, and that's such a cutie.
We've heard of a lot of great aunts and grandmothers named Hazel, so hats off to Hazel Johnson or whatever.
All the best names come back around.
Yeah. That's right.
Gosh, she's got an eye booger.
Yeah,
so
because she got rescued from having to go down for a nap.
She's not jumping into happy hours just yet. She needs to be sleeping right now.
She smells the hops and she's like, yeah, I'm ready to party. She used to be nocturnal, where she would purely come out at night and party, but
yeah, at least she's figured out that nighttime.
At least she's switched. Yeah, you don't want.
Oh my gosh! I'm going to stare at my daughter for the next 3 hours.
I think that's totally okay and understandable. Some people have pets in this whole pandemic. You guys have Hazel as a newborn. I mean, that's like perfect timing.
We could not have timed it better. We didn't see this coming 9 months and 4.5 weeks ago.
I had higher hopes for you guys, but whatever.
We were foresightful enough.
Yeah.
What'd you just say? Oh, Apple News. Apple News. That's a good one.
What did you just say? Yeah, so that's a surprise. that I'm happy that it's there.
Yeah.
And I look to it a lot.
Uh-huh.
Books, actually, I have run out of English books to read here at the house.
You practicing your French?
Nope.
Huh.
I'm holding on. So
Audiobooks? You do audiobooks?
not generally, not unless I'm driving or
Yeah.
riding outside, which I'm not right now.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you got a blizzard yesterday.
Yeah, it was snowing pretty hard.
How much did you get?
We got an inch, but it's already gone.
Yeah.
It's not here anymore.
Very good.
But the book on my bedside table is actually a biography of Trudeau, because I figured I might as well try and read about the guy.
I'm reading a biography of Trump right now.
Are you really?
No.
Yeah. Have you ever read Art of the Deal? Serious question.
No, but old school Trump is amazing when you.
I know. Like you got to read it.
Okay.
It is. I read it. I read it like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I found it. It was like a cast off book. You know, my mom's a librarian. This is one of these books that's just laying around, and I'm like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
I could read this. Sure. I read it in like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But it is amazing. It's worth finding just to read. And like, it's hard to read through your hand as it keeps going up, you know, as you're face palming the whole time.
So just make sure you read it as a library book so that dollars don't end up in the bank account. All right.
Yeah. But what am I doing now mostly? So I got into, I got into the Tour of Flanders races recently.
Mm-hmm.
So hashtag Ronde Treasures. So
Okay.
Tour of Flanders 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18, I think, or 19. Behind the scenes. So these are point of view from the people on motorcycles as cameramen, as judges in the cars, as directors sportifs, or, you know, UCI or race organizers, then the racers themselves, and then the team staff. And it like shows such a great, you know, mix of all these different stories that culminates in the moment when the riders win.
So like virtually, how much race coverage is there?
Barely any.
No kidding.
But it's all happening. The timeline is the race.
Yeah.
And then they just feed in all these different pieces.
Oh, that's super cool.
It's great. Yeah, I found out through Rob Hatch on Twitter and followed through the links, and then, you know, I just started watching them. And they're like an hour and 15 minutes each. They aired on Sporza or AIN, I think, whatever that Belgian TV channel is. But
you can get this fine.
It's on
YouTube.
YouTube.
Is on Netflix? YouTube. I knew
YouTube.
that.
Yep. And it's free, and it's English subtitles with Flemish. And so a lot of the directors are Italian speaking English or French speaking English or, you know, Belgian, whatever.
Yeah.
And so you'll have like moments where there's no subtitles, and then you go right back into it again, and then, you know, back and forth, and everyone is swearing the whole time.
Sure.
It's
a lot
hilarious
of
because there's all kinds of shit going on.
Yeah.
But it's also really funny because it shows a little bit of the awakening of women's racing alongside or within the Tour of Flanders.
Uh-huh.
And there's one exchange that it is like the most brutal truth of how much credence people gave to women's racing.
Okay.
And so there's a finish line announcer, then there's the radio station announcer, then there's Michelle Weitz and Jose Kauer, then there's Renat, you know, like these are all the Sporza guys. And so they go through them, and there's this exchange where the guy who's doing the radio updates has no idea who Anna van der Breggen is.
Oh.
He has no idea which rider crashed on the descent of the Rio Olympics.
Yeah.
So he doesn't understand like what is possibly going on, and he turns to this like page, basically someone who's just helping, you know, his broadcast, and he's like so she won the Olympics, right? And then who's this Bronzini? Who's this other one?
Yeah.
And then he goes on the radio and he starts to say what this guy just told him that he definitely didn't know.
No way.
But at the same time, there's there's Rochelle Gilmore and Jose Bain who are commentating for TV, who obviously know who the riders are, what they're doing, what they won, like why they're in the lead, how they're doing it.
Yeah.
And so it like totally shows this gap, you know, and at the same time they're saying it's the 15th women's Tour of Flanders.
Yeah.
Like, really? It's been 15 Tour of Flanders, and like the national radio guy still doesn't have any idea what's going on.
That's
But I was watching that thing, and it illustrated where people are constantly changing their ideas and hopefully learning new things and building on them. And Flanders Classic seems like they're doing okay, but you know, as an overall, the UCI is definitely not pushing women's sports enough, and if they are, they're doing it with these loopholes in it that still exist. But anyone who's interested in that should definitely watch these.
Great answer.
I have some Emmental too if the breeze is over.
Another perfect segue.
Good.
So because these are questions, you'll never guess what I did today. And because this is a question, would you care to guess what I did today? It might have to do with my distraction. This is a two-part answer, actually.
Is it something that you've put off doing for a while?
Yes. You probably wouldn't guess this in a normal circumstance.
So it's
I'll
not
give you a hint.
taxes?
No, I need to do that.
Okay.
Although now I have till July.
Exactly. Did you go running?
No, that's very hard. This was very hard also. Here's a big hint. You and I talked about it yesterday in reference to something that Phil Gaiman did once upon a time.
Oh, nice. Good. Okay. So we were talking about drinking our favorite beverage at the, solid Vermont IPA. And you mentioned that one of the things you keep seeing on the side of the road are cans of Sip of Sunshine in the ditches that line every single dirt road throughout the entire state of Vermont.
Which over the course of a week, all of a sudden become unearthed, as it were, because the snow melts and all of a
Springtime
sudden
flowers.
you see bright yellow
bulbs.
colors on the side of the road.
The bulbs are, coming up out of
big
the
time.
slimy dirt. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I said, hey, do you remember when Phil did a trash pickup on the side of Latigo or Topanga? Can't remember.
and I said no, I didn't.
That's in Malibu. And you said, no, I don't remember. But so what did you do?
I woke up this morning, and then this will be a good segue to the other big thing I did this morning. I was like, you know what? I've seen a lot of trash out on the roads. We are, I don't know, 800 feet from the road-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I've seen a few bits of trash, especially when I'm coming home, but really not many. And so I went out with my big rubber gloves because I don't want to hit a hypodermic needle that I didn't see under the dirt. And I had a trash bag, and I threw a bunch of trash into a bag. All said and done, okay, I literally went the whole width of the road, a quarter mile, maybe an eighth of a mile and an eighth of a mile, did both sides on a stretch of road that's just outside of our driveway that I would not expect to see a lot of trash in the first place.
How much?
Probably 30 pounds. Insane. Hands down, number one thing I picked up, which is just mind-numbing, is cigarette butts.
Ugh.
Which sucks because they're the bane of health. They're awful. They're so small, so they're hard to pick up.
They're hard to pick up. Yeah.
And then how am I going to get 30 pounds of friggin' cigarette butts? Next most popular item, and granted, it rained last night, so some of the stuff is going to be waterlogged.
Right. No,
a little bit of paper,
sure.
A lot of beer cans, a couple Sip of Sunshine beer cans. So come on, people. That not to say that is my pandemic distraction, although I felt every time a car drove by, there was this feeling of superiority, this is my civic duty for the day. What are you doing?
Or it's your your community service and you've been
Yeah.
ordered to do it, and what is that
Yeah.
on your ankle?
Exactly. It is strange, right? Like you've been on bike rides or driven on the road when you see people picking up trash on the side of the road and you think, that's like a good deed, but kind of a weird thing to do. This is the first
Yeah.
time I've ever done it.
Yeah.
I felt very good about it. It is breathtaking how much trash I got from an area that I wouldn't have expected to see trash.
Yeah.
And
Well,
the whole time I was thinking, I wonder how much trash there is north of the border in this wonderful place, this utopia that Tim calls Canada.
there are still human beings here who
Right.
have all the faults that you would expect.
Uh-huh.
They're still all the same stuff. But so the picking up trash thing is kind of like a mountain biker who does a trail day for the first time and is like, wow, this is awesome.
Mhm.
You know, all of a sudden they're the ones who are not skidding into every corner or shooting down a switchback because they want a faster Strava descent time, whatever.
Yeah.
That's nice. Good for you. Good job.
I'm good about that.
Yeah. My other distraction is building brush piles. So I have a lot of land and a lot of trees that are of ill health, and so they fall down. And so cutting them up and putting them into piles. And of course, as soon as I make a bunch of piles, no more burning.
How many chainsaws do you own?
Just one, and I get made fun of by my friends who are way more Canadian.
Like, because they're actual lumberjacks and they have better ones?
I grew up with a dad who was like a major tree cutter who worked on cars and worked at GE. Like I know what, chain oil is and why you mix gas, and like I had probably 20 chainsaws growing up, and so I've only got one, and it's like, I don't know, the cheesiest it's the Toyota Prius of chainsaws. It's not electric, but it's not that far off.
That was my question. Is it electric? Okay.
No.
Have you ever sharpened your chainsaw?
I sharpened the blade, yeah. So I got a couple blades and a couple chains, and I just sharpen them on the thing and put it back on and go.
Nice.
But I also have those sweet chaps. So if you ever want to feel cool, man, you put on a pair of blaze orange chaps with protective layers so that you don't cut your legs apart. That's always the thing. Like when you're a cyclist, you just assume that you are a baby bird who's going to fall out of the nest and die. Like you can't do anything. You can't possibly pick anything up. Like you just end up being like this little crunched little old person. And
should I bring Hazel back on? Like,
exactly. I heard she's flying on the QOMs. Like she's gonna
moving.
crush.
She's moving.
Her bones are literally hollow, so she's got a great advantage. But I was always afraid of cutting my leg apart when my chainsaw kicked back.
Yeah.
So I looked on YouTube and I got the face shield and I got the chaps, and my jacket is just bright orange thing, and I've got these gloves with like metal pieces in them.
No way. Like the chainmail. Dude,
Yeah.
you could be like man, if you took that exact outfit and went back to like jousting days, you could win in the medieval times.
Yeah, you against Heath Ledger wearing all that stuff, you'd totally crush.
Outstanding. Man, oh man.
We should cut trees someday. It'd be fun.
We have such a perfect property for like a total noob lumberjack. We own 10 acres here in Vermont, and it's largely just wide open field. Although we had a crazy Halloween flood last year, and so there's a stream that runs down our yard, and a tree literally fell from the bank on the other side of the stream, which was a river that raging day, and it fell from our neighbor's property onto our property. So now we got a tree out in the yard that I got to go cut down.
October to now, really?
Well, I've seen that the tree went down, but we've had this great field of snow that I haven't been able to deal with. And furthermore, I don't own chaps nor a face mask, and especially a chainsaw. I like to have spring activities.
Sponsored by Stihl, STIHL.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, you could get hooked up and you'd be like, out there, I'm ready to go. Yeah.
Okay. That would be a great sponsor to pursue.
Yeah.
Segway. I love my segues. They're always so smooth. Lear. Leer.
Yeah.
What is Lear?
Where did you pick that one up? It's been a long time.
Tell me what Lear is, and then I'll tell you where I picked it up.
Okay. So that Lear makes truck caps.
That's
So
right. I knew I've seen it. And I was like,
back
where
of a
have I seen
pickup.
that?
Yeah,
Okay.
you've driven behind a million pickups with the Lear cap. They also do
Yeah.
the Ace or Are ones.
Yep.
But that was a sponsor that I had. I was sponsored by Toyota, by Lear, and by Thule, and all three mixed. And so I ended up with this brand new Toyota Tundra
Yeah.
with 24-inch chrome wheels on the Tundra, a sweet cap on the back, and that's what we towed our trailer to go all the cross races with. So I had that for a couple of years. It was awesome.
Okay.
It's pretty sweet.
Was it a Lear that we broke the
Yes. You didn't
200
break
to
it.
100?
So in the original 200 on 100, we're getting into the pickup in the parking lot of the crappy little motel at the border. And we come out and Chan or someone comments about the window being out. So that was Chandler working on my house. He was renovating our property, and he was using a table saw, and he's like rushing through all these cuts and rushing through the cuts, and he goes on the table saw and he's not using the guard, and he slips and a board goes floop, like 30 feet into the driveway and smashes right through this side window of my Lear cap.
Oh my God.
And I was like, I wasn't home. I came back from a ride, and Chance in there going, zzz, 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 like doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
And I go over and there's a pile of glass and no window in my truck. I'm like, Chan, way to go, buddy. Nice work. Glad you
Which is
didn't die.
amazing. That it purely went through the window. It didn't dent the truck. It didn't injure the truck otherwise.
No.
It made for easy access when you needed a wheel, so long as you didn't cut yourself on the shards of glass.
On the right-hand side, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, the original question, Lear.
Yeah.
So I was like, I should do a little more due diligence before I dive into this Tim Johnson. Like, I know Tim in a whole bunch of superficial and sub-superficial and sub-superficial ways, but you are OG in the fact that you were creating content back in 2008, my friend. I watched the 9-Ball Diaries.
Yeah, exactly.
Sponsored by Lear. 6 a.m. today. We're up early. We're feeding.
Oh my God! Tell me you didn't. Tell me you didn't.
It was amazing.
Wasn't that good?
It was great. There's so much. I mean, like
Don Hampton,
from short socks to just like the who's who of mid 90s. Well, late. I mean, not 90s.
Mid 90s. Come on,
mid
man.
2000s. Mid 2000s. Sorry, mid to late 2000s. That's fantastic.
That was Don Hampton, who was an Emmy award-winning director, who was one of the guys who worked with Aaron Chase and his crew when they started jibbing on bikes. Like Aaron is the guy who, whenever you look at what's his face? God, why am I blanking on his name? Trek Jump Rider. Come on. No, like Crankworks video with like one cut grass on the hillside.
He does the whole thing on like 3 different bikes.
God, we are totally siloing ourselves if I can't remember his name.
I blame that.
Yeah, exactly. Shit. But anyways, Aaron Chase was one of the original guys to ride a bike and do really hard, fun stuff on nothing. Basically, that was his jam. He could ride something and make it look super fun. He was doing like foot plants off the top of like quarter pipes when no one ever thought of doing that. He basically took a skateboard and turned it into his 26-inch mountain bike. Yep. But Don Hampton was along for the ride, and Don was filming it and shooting it and cutting it, and like they put out these DVDs, and so this whole generation of these riders who were riding mountain bikes doing stuff that became dirt jumping and freestyle mountain biking, basically, even though it wasn't. He was one of those guys, and he worked with Cannondale a lot, and so he came up with the idea of, hey, we want to do something, let's shoot. And so Cannondale was like, well, cyclocross, like it's cheap, it's easy, Tim's on a cross bike this year, like let's figure it out. And so that became the 9-Ball Diaries. We had no budget. but we ended up shooting in a year where the storyline was really good because it was the points chase and
Yeah.
competing against the same people a couple weeks apart. There were so many races that he didn't go to because we didn't have budget that would have even, would have been so much better to show. And then it culminates with nationals, and like, fuck, that was like the best nationals ever.
Yeah.
And that became Nightball Diaries. Yeah.
Man, oh man. How much, like, 2008 is not an era in which anybody would ever say the term "I'm producing content."
No.
So, given what you guys were doing in 2008 to produce that, well, sorry, it was 2007 was the season. It came out in 2008, if my IMDb is correct.
It is, yes.
Did you feel like you were doing something on the cutting edge, or was it annoying to be like, all right, there's this dude having with a camera in my face? Was it just one guy? Like, talk to me about that process.
Two. Yeah. So if you remember, there's a segment where we're riding single track that's in Topsfield.
Yeah.
I was living in Beverly. I would ride my cross bike on single track to get ready for cross season. I was still doing, Tour of Missouri was that year. Tour of Georgia, I think it was the last year of it. Tour of California. Like, I was racing all the American tours and then going literally from Sunday night at Tour of Missouri, partying all night, and then going to Cross Vegas on Wednesday night. Like, that was the off season, was like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then poof, here you go.
Yeah.
And so, like, one of the segments is riding a cross bike on single track, and that was what I did normally. That's what I like to do. We didn't have a ton of gravel roads, but I always rode them because we were cross riders.
Right.
So when he came out and filmed that, we shot some barriers. It was my mom's backyard. He literally made a track for the camera out of PVC pipe.
No way.
With joints, and he made the PVC pipe like 40 feet long. And so that's me riding up to the barriers in my mom's backyard, and then, back up and over. And he's got the dolly running down the tracks, and there's the tracking shot. And it looks beautiful when you see it.
Right.
The matchup to that shot is at Cross Nationals. It's December, it's snowing and shitty and cold. He's got two guys, two cameras, and they're trying to shoot an hour-long race, and I'm in the fight. And he's like posted up on a corner with a run-up, and then he can get another shot. And so he looks over and he sees Bill Marshall, who is putting on the race, and he's like, hey, can I jump on the back of that four-wheeler and get a shot? And Bill's like, oh, yes. Fuck yeah, sure. And so he gets in the back of this thing. They go all the way to the other end of this like gravel paved path, and they wait for me to come around, and there's Don with like a big camera. This is not like a little digital thing with like a squirrel hanging out. This
right?
is
like this thing has better technology right now.
Exactly.
That guy's camera.
He's got a broadcast camera, and he's on the back of this four-wheeler bouncing along, and he takes a tracking shot of me going through like kind of tricky stuff and then getting off into a run-up. And that was like the best shot of the entire thing. So I feel like at that point it was taking what was something totally normal for us, putting in someone else who has a creative eye and other skills, and he was able to shoot it, and it came out great. I mean, I'm not a fan of like the the interludes, the pool scenes, like all that shit, but it was awesome otherwise.
There's something about those parts that just dates it so well also.
Oh, yeah.
You are very good with a mic in your hand. And if it weren't him feeding you cheesy lines, I would realize that you would say something a little more creative.
What about the voiceover? So the voiceover was Philly the next summer.
Yeah.
So Nationals was December 2007, Philly 2008. So that's June 2008.
Yep.
We did the voiceover in a Days Inn in Trenton.
Oh, no way.
I'm underneath a fucking comforter.
Yeah.
Talking into a mic with lines that were pre-written. I've got a roommate, I think it was Brad White, who's like napping.
Yeah.
next to me who doesn't want to hear me talking. So I'm like covered in this disgusting comforter reading these lines that Don had fed me. And I was like, oh, God,
Which
this
is
is the
perfect.
worst.
But it's like great acoustics. There's no echoing going on under that comforter.
No.
Man,
He
that's
told
where
me.
the full circle is, because I think he raced in Trenton in the middle of in one race within the video. Long story short, folks, if you have not seen the 9-Ball Diaries, like, I've been aware of this thing, having grown up in New England and know who Jimmy Johnson is, but I have not seen this video until now.
Mm.
It took Googling. It took finding that it's available on Amazon Prime.
It's on Amazon, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on Amazon. Go for it. We'll tweet it tonight.
Yeah, I
Okay.
subscribed. I watched it and I quickly unsubscribed from the network that I had to get in order to watch it. It's good stuff. I was fascinated.
I'm glad that you hooked Hazel up so early in her life with the 9-Ball Diaries.
Oh my gosh.
Really appreciate that.
There were certain aspects, like the voiceover, like the pool scene, that are like, it's so perfect to place it, right? That's like almost, it's like Top Gun. It's amazing. It's cheesy as hell, but it's amazing. And you've done mighty fine work with that.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so now when I say one of these particular names, I would like you to give me, I don't know, either a name or a phrase that comes to mind what it was like to race either with them or against them.
Oh, God.
Okay. Yeah, I know. You're on the spot. This is a tough
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Todd Wells. One word or phrase.
Amazing. Big fan of Todd's.
Nice. Current gravel ripper. Who's the name I'm going to say now?
Current gravel ripper. Payson doesn't rip.
No. Sorry. These names are all, I should say, all these names are featured in 9-Ball Diaries.
Oh. Featured in 9-Ball Diaries.
Yeah. He's a Canuck, just like yourself.
Kabush.
Yeah.
He's not a ripper. He's not a ripper at all.
He won the first big race of the season. He beat Gravel Ruiner.
He ripped the descent, but no one would ever say that he's a ripper.
Okay, sorry.
He's like a blunt instrument at this point.
Accurate at the state of his career, yes. All right, Jeff Kabush. Independent. Remove the fact that I just said gravel ripper.
Shimei and push-ups. And
how good is that?
I have a great story about Jeff Kabush.
Yeah.
Also, go back in the Internet Archives, Google Jeff Kabush shotgun Yao Ming.
Whoa.
Your mind will literally explode.
Okay.
So this is closing
Time out,
ceremonies.
Internet. Time out. Press pause right now, everybody. You can do this.
It's not a long video because this is when data was really hard to save.
Yeah.
This is when phones had 50 megabytes
Yeah.
you could possibly fill.
No way.
So closing ceremonies, Beijing 2008. Everyone's in the field. Jeff Kabush challenges Yao Ming to a shotgun competition.
What?
And fucking crushes him. So that's your mistake that you weren't there to do that to him, because you would have beat both of those guys. I know you have a skill that no one else does, but there is a video. It is blurry. It is loud. It is like the light, it's all messed up. But Kabush beat Yao Ming in China at the Olympics.
That's nuts.
Home court advantage couldn't hold him.
Not that can be beat, and this will not beat that. But if you'd like to see a podium to that, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you Google the other things that you just said, which is Jeff Kabush, Shimei, push-ups. Just Google that. That is outstanding. That's good content.
Classy move to put that up on the internet. Yep.
Jeremy Powers.
Jeremy, I would say boomerang at this point. We have found each other again after many years of battling on and off the bike, and I think it really came to it came to heart to heart when he came up here and I taught him how to skimo, and then we went Nordic skiing the next day. He made a video for GCN. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
But we talk all the time now, and so it's been great.
Even though he's a New Englander, he's got soft skin. He's always
He's
cold.
from Connecticut, dude.
Well, I know. The North Mid-Atlantic states.
Exactly.
Jesse Anthony.
Brother I didn't have. Yeah.
Nice. Man, he's so young in that.
Yeah.
Like you hardly see him, but then you just do some math and you're like, well, you're probably a teenager right now.
I met him when he was 12. So at that point he was already getting pretty old.
Yeah. Jonathan Page.
Page, man. Enigma.
Yeah.
Not really a nemesis in the fact that like he was successful on his own without me. Then we definitely battled pretty hard a lot of times, and it got ugly at times.
Yeah.
And I would say like at the intersection of all that is a fellow Vermonter, Jerry Chabot, who was like best buds with JP. And in the old days of news groups would like talk shit about me all the time. And I have become friends with Jerry.
Yeah.
And, you know, Jonathan is now living out West and like, and off the bike, but man, we had some battles out there.
Oh, that's funny.
Big time.
Good spectrum of people right there.
Yeah.
How much do you think his battles and the way you just described them has to do with geography? Like you guys are both excellent bike handlers in adverse conditions, and so therefore like fighting for spots and sponsorships and race wins and so on and so forth. How much, like, the fact that you both are coming from roughly the same, he's from Massachusetts, right?
Connecticut originally.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, so North Mid-Atlantic states.
Yeah.
I mean, if he was from like
so
Kentucky,
he was a year.
or something.
Well, yeah. I mean, he was a year older than me. He was. He's an incredible talent for sure. Like when he was a junior national cross champ, and then a couple hours later got second, I think, in the elites back when he was still a junior. And then he wins nationals 4 times, I think. He gets second at Worlds. Like he's got these huge results that I don't have. I would have won nationals 4 times, but whatever. It's a whole other story. But yeah, we were in the same generation for sure. And we literally went like this. You know, he chose his path of going to Belgium and like sticking it out no matter what and doing it this way. And I totally went another way. Like, I went to, instead of living in Belgium for another year after I kind of like tried it and I just really didn't love it. It wasn't great for me. I ended up breaking my collarbone just before Worlds. And like, it's funny to go back and spend time in Europe and talk to Bart Wellens or Sven Nys or like, you know, all the guys that we were all racing together and talk about what these decisions were really like. And they look at me and they're like, well, you were American. Of course you went home. Yeah. Well, Jonathan didn't go home. He stayed and he's like, I'm going to do this. And I think almost all of his kids are born in Belgium. You know, he lived there and totally fought the good fight. You know, in our case, like I was racing in the US and you know, trying to race on the road because that's where I could get a salary. I could actually make a living at it. I gave up cross entirely to focus on the road. And now it's a mistake, but at the time, like I thought I was making the right choice. And so like, yeah, we definitely really veered in very different directions. And we really only came back together again a couple times in nationals. Besides that, we didn't race together very much. Yeah. No.
Man. Everything's a story. Like everything's so, there's so many levels of complexity to it. And
there's a great story that Sven Nys told me at dinner this year at Worlds that literally made me cry, that someday I'll tell you about. But it's like we all play, we all have our lives, right? And everyone's doing their thing and making the decisions we make and living the experiences and you know, living the outcomes.
From these two eyes. Yeah.
From these two eyes.
Yep.
And people come in and out. And so for me at that time, I was racing as I was the weird American who got a medal. Yep. So I get invited back to Europe. I'm living with Bart Wellens, who's silver medalist, world champion of worlds. Like, he's the next big guy to come. Sven is a year older than us. I get this opportunity. I totally take advantage of it as best as I can. I definitely don't call it a success, but at the same time, it was like a big transition period in my life. Like, you know, I had left college to go race in Belgium. Like, I made these decisions to go, and, you know, whatever. Just, it wasn't for me, and I went home. But anyways, my life continued. And so I end up having dinner with Sven again at Worlds, and he tells a story about how I was a part of his life. And we see each other every year, maybe, but this was the first time we've ever had like this deep of a conversation. And I was like, my jaw was like to the floor, and I was crying, and I was like, oh my God, like you don't always know what part you play in someone else's life until you have the opportunity to tell each other. And so, you know, people who go through a career, all of a sudden, all of those stories and all of those experiences are now up for grabs again. And, you know, he's still Sven Nice. Like, he's still the you know, the best guy to ever ride a cross bike.
Yeah.
So like, it's coming from that guy, even though we were both kids before, you know, it's like, it's kind of funny to see how that plays out. But man, yeah, a career in cycling gives us a lot of different viewpoints on things. And, you know, the stories that you can tell when they become more clear to you, they really are involving all these different people, and however they played a part, it's like, you know, I think that with age, you want to reach out and be like, hey, remember that time? Well, that meant this to me. And this was one of those times for him. It was really cool.
That's freaking amazing. That is awesome. I mean, yeah, what a freaking legend. I don't know. I mean, to even have opened up about that in the first place, right? He could have just as easily, I don't know where the room was that you're having this dinner, but I can picture it being like,
it was like a 10-person table, and there are photos of the both of us talking, and it's like,
I can picture you just like crying in the corner, like, oh, please.
It's awesome. It's a good photo. I'll show you later.
Okay. Well, this is great because I kid you not. The next question I have on here, and the answer does not have to be Sven Nys, but as I watch Nine Ball Diaries and I see like great throwback faces, throwback and then contemporary, Richard Fries has been, you know, part of the cycling community, especially in New England, but then on a national, international scale for eons. I see him there. And I see one of the better ones is when Chris Zigmont is interviewing you with the Pedros hat on, and he's both commentating, he's working for Pedros at the time. The question is, who have been your mentors over the years?
Well, I'm glad you said who have been rather than who was, or, you know, what person was, because I didn't have just one. It was really a collective effort as far as my career went, and as far as who I am as a person. I think there's a lot of overlap in that. The guy that probably did the most for my career is Steve Martin, the comedian on Twitter, Steve Pucci. Steve Pucci's avatar is Steve Martin.
Yes, it is.
and
Pooch.
Pooch is you know, New England foundation piece, icon. Like, he's been a part of a lot of people's careers in cycling, but he's also been a friend to a lot of people, and has been someone who's like very much an idea that you are familiar with, even if you've never met him. Like, you understand like who this person is and what he does. But he was really good about telling me, like, hey, it seems like you really like to ride bikes. You look like you are probably pretty good at them, but unless you get your shit together, none of that really matters. Like, you got to actually like channel what you're doing. And I never really understood that. No one ever told me that. So that was a big part of it. Bruce Fina, who I don't think he made Nine Ball Diaries.
No,
Bruce
he didn't. Bruce he's over in Austria.
Yeah.
And you told me about Bruce.
Pedros.
I met him once, and he was like when I met him, he's like, no, I'm not a weirdo. Tim can vouch for me. I'm like, all right.
Exactly. Well, he
What
came
was
up
he
to
doing?
me at Red Bones in Somerville after like a spring mass bike party. This is like 1997, maybe 1998. I think I was back from college at that time,
Yeah.
and he just became a really good friend. But he was also in the industry. He started Pedro's. He's running this business, and I ended up working for him a couple years later, which is like working. And we just become really good friends, and he kind of helps me. He helps me with contracts. He helps me understand that like you as a cyclist, as this person, you got to do the riding, you got to do the training, you got to learn how to race, but you also have to do the business side of it. So it's always like I had all of those pieces because of someone like Bruce to be able to share that with me. Yeah, like Richard is in a lot of ways was like a not a culture, like people who like understand that there is always going to be another version to what's happening. Like Richard is always counterculture, but not so counter that no one listened to him. Like he was always like, yeah, but what about these guys? They don't think of it the same way. Have you ever thought about listening to them? And so at that point, it was like advocacy. I worked at the Ride magazine, a regional magazine for New England that was talking about cycling.
Man.
And he would post these things about, oh, there's a new bike path in development. It's going to go from Arlington or downtown Boston or Arlington out to Concord or Carlisle. We should get behind it. Like racers should get behind it and be like, what do we care about a bike path for? That's lame.
Yeah.
Like who cares about that? And then he becomes a really big part of what I do or what I did with People for Bikes and like raising money for them and talking about how advocacy is a crucial part to what we do as cyclists. We're out there on the roads all the time. We're living, breathing bikes. And yet at that point, no one ever thought about caring what a commuter did because they were the weirdos with the little mirrors, screw those guys. They're not racers like us. They're not as cool. So Richard always did that. Zygmunt, I have a photo of the 1993 Junior Sport New England mountain bike series where he is giving me my prize on the podium at a race.
Man.
And
93. How old was Tim Johnson in 93?
93, I was 15. Yeah.
That's
so there's Zig handing me my pile of tubes and a seat and like
one tire.
One tire. Yeah.
You're a sport, young man.
I hope it's an Onza because I want an Onza. But there's Zig, I think I got, actually, this might've been a really pretty sweet prize. It was a Mountain Smith hip pack, which if you remember at the time, Mountain Smith was super badass. If you went into an REI at that point, like the Mountain Smith section was like all these killer hip packs. And you were really cool if you rode a mountain bike with a hip pack back then.
Yeah.
It took like 20 something years to come back around, but it's still there.
What's old is new again. That's amazing.
So
if you have one of those now, you could get a small killing. It's like old school North Face. Yeah.
So those people have always been a part of what I've done, and we're all still friends. The Mahoney brothers, like, being together, doing our first race ever, like literally our first beginner mountain bike race. We all did it together. Wow. We're all still friends. Paul Boudreau put on gravel, Gloucester cross race for a long time. He was there. Fat Sean. So the five of us, John and Andrew Mahoney, Fat Sean and Paul, we're still friends. We had a 25th anniversary at Kingdom Trails. We rented a house and rode our new bikes, but we brought all of our old bikes. So I brought my Klein Attitude, and Paul brought his Rigan, and we brought a Miata, and we rode bikes and sat around and drank beer. It was awesome.
Oh, that's amazing.
Cool.
Well done.
Yeah, it's fun, man. So you gotta, I don't know, like I think about a lot of people nowadays who are getting their start in the sport, and I feel like there's such a reliance on like the people who are perceived as knowing what to do because they're like big on the internet or they've got an internet coaching business. And I don't know, there's just so much more to it than whether or not you can ride a bike fast, especially especially now.
Which takes time and perspective to appreciate. I mean,
Yeah.
I think, yeah, you and I have been in those places to not appreciate what Richard is saying, to be focused on the interval, to be focused on a contract year, to be like, I can't pay attention to that right now.
No.
Well, I kid you not, this was one of my questions. We're gonna wrap before hitting all 19 of my COVID-19s. Can you imagine what you'd be doing if you weren't riding a bike?
I mean, I am kind of done now.
Well, that's why I went back.
My fridge is like more than arm's length.
I
I
know.
need it. This is my office. I really need to work on my.
Well, I made guacamole earlier, and so as much as you're eating your baguette and your brie, I ate my guac earlier, so I have not been eating on. There you go. Take it down. You need like a toaster in there in your fridge within arm's distance.
If it's fresh, you don't need a toaster. You know that, right?
Yeah. Accurate. Okay.
What do you got?
That was the question.
What?
What would you be doing if you did not ride a bike? If cycling had never hit your radar? Or, I mean, it might be a foolish question. Like, there's a certain point, my answer to that is, if I didn't ride a bike, then I would have gone to the direction of economics degree at Middlebury, because that's where I found cycling and that's where that convergence happened.
Yeah.
Like, where did cycling hit your life? And if you didn't jump to it, if you didn't say, okay, yeah, I'm going to try to veer left when I should dodge right, where would you be?
So I have a couple of different factors that I think matter greatly in trying to answer that. So when I was hit by cycling, I was definitely well on my way towards not doing anything substantial or important or even safe or good.
Drugs. You were doing a lot of drugs.
We were doing a lot of drugs, but not just that, but we were kind of like shitting on
recreational drugs, people. We're talking about like weed.
Exactly. Yeah. We were my group of friends. There are not many who have made it out of that phase of their lives. Let's put it that way. So we were shitting on life, and I think that was a great time to find bikes, which allowed me to like put my energy somewhere, focus on something. I still rode as far as I could to go party or, do whatever we did, but at least it gave me something to do. And so I think that was a huge determinant on whether or not I would have done something else if I didn't find bikes. In a perfect world, without that major influence in my life, I did have a lot of good people around me at the time I was listening to them, but I think that, I don't know, like I've always had a lifelong appreciation for animals. Like if I could have ever pulled my shit together to become a vet or like to work with animals in some way, I think I totally would have, because it's just something that I love to do. If you
hadn't been able to pull it together to be a vet, I could picture you like working in a zoo. I love you, Rhino. I'm gonna.
Oh my God, that guy's a rhino whisperer. Like, how has he not gotten gored yet?
he's a rhino whisperer.
He's kept it out of his gut the whole time. Like I don't know. I think that would have been kind of cool. There's a great there's a conservation place in Ojai, California. Ojai, a place we both love.
Lovely spot. I saw Ted Danson there once.
Did you?
Good story. Let me interrupt.
Go for it.
We're going down the one main road, and I was on my bike, and Ted Danson was in the car, and the window was down, and he was in the passenger seat. I go, oh, I'm so bad with like hitting,
celebrity names
of celebrities. So I was like,
on the spot.
Proud. Oh, it's Ted Danson, and he looked at me, and he waved, and I was like, my name is Ted also, and then he hit a red light, and I rode away. Okay, so there you are.
That's awesome.
In Ojai.
And you knew Ted Danson.
Yeah.
That's good.
If it was like Steve Danson, never would have gotten it.
I saw Ben Stein once in Denver on the walkways in the middle of the terminal. You stand there.
Ben Stein, like win Ben Stein's money?
Exactly. So I'm standing on this thing and I'm like, I think it was before smartphones maybe.
Yeah.
or maybe they're still coming up. They don't work all the time. And I just remember looking and I see this guy and I'm like, hey, Ben. And that's it. And he just keeps going. And I was like, wow, cool. I just said this son. That's great. But what else would I have been? I think that my dream would have been to be a rally car driver.
Oh,
I fucking love going fast and driving. I went and bought an 84 GTI because that's what I had as a car when I was 19, like a dumb shit. And I've always enjoyed motorsports. I watch it all the time. Like I really love how it works and how people do things. And I like the thought process behind it. Like an idiot, I didn't pick up The Art of Racing in the Rain, the book.
Yeah.
If you've ever seen it in the bookstore, I went past it a million times flying airport to airport and I never picked it up. I finally read it and I was like, oh my God, this is the best book ever, as I like bawl my eyes out at the end of it. The movie comes out and I love the movie.
Yeah.
It's got animals in it, it's got dogs. So yeah, probably rally car driver.
Are you watching any Drive to Survive season 2?
I did, yeah.
Oh man,
so good.
I'm in a book club coming up. I don't know when we're gonna put this out to the internet, but we're gonna do a book club on April 16th, day after tax day, 1.0. The Rider.
The Rider.
Do you know The Rider? Oh my gosh. It's by Tim Krabbe.
Oh, yes. It's fiction, right?
It's fiction, and it's a journalist who talks about his amateur racing career, but it's like, I read it probably 15 years ago and it hits on every little nerdy nuance of cycling and I'm like, all right, this is cute. I get it. And then I was out on a bike ride and I listened to it because it's a very quick read.
I think I read
so
that.
Perfect because it's like, it is the thought process of a very well written journalist talking about what it's like to be a cyclist. I'm like, oh man, this is good stuff.
I'll check it out. If you want to watch something on Amazon also, but it's going to be in French, The Bicycle, the Bicyclette of Guylain Lambert. And it's like made in the 2000s, early 2000s, but it's set in the 70s in Belgium. Nice. And it's a bike racer who becomes a professional, and the actor is like this famous Belgian French actor, Pulvord or something. When you see him, you would.
Okay.
But it's great, and it's got all the hits, like everything that you've ever done or seen. He does it in the movie, and like some of them you're going like this, and then some you're like, yeah, buddy.
Yeah.
And then some you're like, you should just stop. Like all the feelings that we had racing. It's a good one to look at. I'll send you the link.
Please do.
Yep.
Well, outside of asking when are we going to do a 200 on 100 again, where not until the borders open up again, I can hear the panging cries of Hazel just over my
she's still awake.
Here. Yeah. So, Kim, I thank you very much for your time.
She probably can't make 200 miles. Like I'm going to say it right now. You shouldn't make her do that.
Even if
it's
this
too early.
Takes long enough that we can put her on a tandem, I think her neck would probably get too bored.
She would nap for some of it and then cry for many, many hours otherwise.
198 miles. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, let's do it.
Man, yeah. It's funny that we talk Sip of Sunshine because I have thought about both doing the 200 on 100 and somehow figuring out a way to ride to the border and then smuggle you some sips over the border. We'll see how this quarantine shelter in place hunkering down goes.
It's not the Berlin Wall. It's not Checkpoint Charlie, but we really should look at that. Even if it's like a beer can curling where you just like roll it across and then I get it. Or like, we
work on trades. Like I will do that for you. I want to do that for you, but I've also had some very good microbrews from your neck of the woods. It'd be like,
will you trade? Oh, I've got some Ciboire in the fridge.
Exactly.
But I feel like it's hard to ration. Rationing is like, I don't have scurvy yet.
Yeah.
But I feel like I could get scurvy. So I just want to make sure I've got a little bit of yellow just in case.
I like it.
Go take care of Hazel. We can do this again sometime.
Bye. This was fun. Thanks,
big
man.
guy.
I appreciate it.
See you, dude.
Bye. Well, that's going to be a great intro.
I hope you can edit.
So do I.